Good
for
evening,
joining
Vinay.
here. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Thanks to both of you and Mr. Pradeep Bandyopadhyay also for joining here. Our principal
Good
sir,
evening. Good
good
evening.
evening. Good evening. Principal sir, Dr. Batra is also here. Sir, if you can start this introduction and a formal uh, announcement of starting this webinar.
Okay. So, good evening to all the participants and the guests, my dear students. This is really the topic is very challenging to all of us, and thanks to all the speakers who had spent their valuable time, and all the students participants from all over the country, and my faculty colleagues, and special thanks to our these coordinators, Nimai, Sayari, then your Professor Sabyasachi Mukherjee, and System Administrator Rana Ghosh. And we all know that the topic itself speaks that these are the leadership styles which we have studied from the books, which no more going to give us the result during the current situation. No book, no theory is going to help us. Take the case of political, social, economic, finance, any area. The leadership role has now to be redefined because we used to follow the theories of leadership of OB, 5B, Big 5B. Okay, all these theories, because now from this platform, we listen from the speakers that what are the time we are going to, because we don't find any future in front of us, because the disruption is very terrific due to this COVID and the pandemic situation. Now we all have to take part in this forum and come out with some solutions then how to overcome this crisis. But I see that this crisis has given us also an opportunity to transform our leadership style, our policy, our strategy, and make this as a challenge, take this as a challenge, and transform because each and every sector has been affected. Okay, not only in India, not only corporate, with the social, political, economic, every each and every area has been affected badly. But we should take this as a challenge and we must come out with some new strategy, new policy, which is going to guide the nation as well as organization, as well as because as we are academic institute, we are also finding a challenge because used to take offline classes, but now all the classes are going to be virtual classrooms, online classes. That is also a challenge we are finding, and how to engage the students. And the leadership is going to play a very great role in the coming days. So, as I told you, that this sort of theory, whichever we have studied from the book, is not going to help us after the havoc has been created by the pandemic situation. Now we have to think something, redefine the leadership model, whichever you are using till now. Now the model needs to be changed. The model needs to be transformed. Only then, I think we have a very eminent speakers. We have with us today Mr. Manmeet Singh. He is very friendly to BIMS, and Trina, we are proud that she is our alumni, and Mr. Pradeep Bandyopadhyay, he is also our governing body member, as well as he is heading HR department of any corporate house. So I think this discussion will be very fruitful, and I request all the participants to send them the questions, and accordingly it will be handled, and all the participants they will be issued an e-certificate. Okay, so I thank you once again from Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Institute of Management Science, Kolkata. All the participants I can see that participants from all over the country are also there, not only from Kolkata, from different parts of the country has also participated in this webinar today. And thanks all of you. And from the core of my heart and on my personal behalf as well as from on behalf of the BIMS, I may take the privilege to welcome you all again to this webinar. Enjoy it. Have a nice day. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll now request Mr. Pradeep Bandyopadhyay to take up.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks to all of you, the learned panelists, the distinguished faculties, and my dear students who are there across the country, what sir was telling. It's indeed a privilege for all of us to be a part of this discussion. Before I start the discussion, because what I think the easiest task of any discussion is that of a moderator. If the discussion goes well, if the credit goes to the moderator, if the discussion doesn't go well, it's the speakers who didn't put any input. So I am at the safe seat. Anyhow, a very warm welcome to Manmeet and Trina. Let me give you a brief introduction to both the panelists, which I would love to. Manmeet is basically is from Kolkata. He graduated from St. Xavier's College. He did his PGDBM from Wigan and Leigh, Kolkata. Then he did his senior management program from IIM Calcutta, from strategy program from ISB Hyderabad, then ACIIM from Chartered Institute in Marketing. Currently, he is a senior associate director, commercial excellence in Kellogg's India, a very senior profile. He is into the sales strategy, capability, sales IT. Earlier experiences include working in Cadbury's India, PepsiCo, Frito-Lay's, and Link Pens. A lot of achievements, Manmeet. If I go on, then I think half of the time will be covered. Anyhow, a couple of achievements which I would like to share with you. He was awarded President's Ring of Honor by Indra Nooyi, none other than Indra Nooyi in New York for outstanding performance in 2009. He received Special Appreciation Certificate for successful launch of one of Lay's products, highest growing FMCG company as far as Kellogg's is concerned, that too from the East, Best Regional Award in 2018. Welcome, Manmeet, once again.
Thank you so much.
Our next speaker, Trina. As sir has already told, it's a privilege that Trina is an alumni of this very institute of our own institute, BIMS. I think Trina was from the 2008 to 10 batch. Trina's background is she's an MA in English from the University of Burdwan. She's currently as manager business HR in Tata Communications, Pune. Earlier work experience, she was a HR business partnered with WNS Global Services. She was a manager HR with NetScribes India Private Limited. And achievement, she has more than 9 years of work experience in supporting HR strategy by implementing HR programs and working with key stakeholders to build a relationship of trust, ensuring alignment between HR strategy and overall business objective. Great, Trina. A warm welcome to you once again. I think you feel elated and proud to be a part of the same institute from where you have passed out. It's a great feeling,
absolutely. I think, and I can see my teachers who have taught me. I see Amitava sir, I see Shemanti ma'am. So, those teachers who have taught me, I'm talking in front of them. I think that's a great achievement, which I can just, I just say, and Majumdar sir, see, I just saw him right now.
Oh, that's great.
It's an honor. I can just say that.
That is great, Rina. That is great. The topic which sir just told is something very relevant, more so in these difficult times, that too of transformation and leadership in the time of COVID-19. Let me set the pace of discussion. What I am proposing is that let both the speakers be given maybe 7 to 8 minutes of discussion, or maybe 10 minutes. You can share your thoughts and ideas. After that, we can discuss within ourselves and we can take questions. My main contention or the purpose of having this entire thing is that let it be a two-way communication. Let us get feedback from the students, the learned faculties who are there, so that we can also get the inputs, and accordingly let us come to a consensus of as regards to the outcome of this entire discussion. I hope that is okay with everybody. Let me set the pace. We are all into, I think, the toughest time which we have ever seen in our lives, the COVID-19. Huge impact, unimaginable impact in the Indian economy. What is it? First of all, it is largely disruptive, what Sir was telling. Indian growth in the fourth quarter of the fiscal year 2020 has gone down to 3.1%. Unemployment rose from 6.7% as on 15th March to 26% on 19th of April. Unimaginable. Due to the lockdown, an estimated 14 crore people lost employment. More than 45% of the households across the Indian nation have reported an income drop as compared to the previous year. World Bank and other rating agencies have initially revised India's growth for 2021 with the lowest figures India has seen in 3 decades since the economic liberalization took place in the 1990s. CRISIL
Yes, ma'am.
announced that this will be perhaps India's worst
क्या अच्छी मैम
recession after independence. 53% of the total business in the country is significantly affected. India's economy is expected to lose, I quote, expected to lose 32,000 crores every day during the first 21 days of the lockdown that was announced by the government of India. Such is the impact of COVID-19 in India and its economy. Now, let me come to the impact. Many companies have temporarily suspended or significantly reduced operations. FMCG, I think Manmeet would be in a better position to throw light on this. FMCG in the country have significantly reduced operations and are focusing on essentials only. Stock markets in India posted their worst losses in history on the 23rd of March 2020. The government of India, after so much of developments, announced a variety of measures, including social relief schemes for the citizens of the country, more so those who are below the poverty line. World Bank and Asian Development Bank approved support to India to tackle this pandemic. And lastly, which you are all aware of, 12th of May, the Prime Minister announced an overall package of 20 lakh crore, which is 10% of the total GDP, with emphasis on self-reliance. Why I quoted all these figures, why I wanted to say all this is that the country is passing through an unprecedented time, unprecedented crisis. And taking this as a background, the more important now is the leadership which is required not only at the corporates, but also maybe at the top level of all the institutions, so that we need to ensure that the country is steered out of this unprecedented situation. And therein comes the requirement of transformation and leadership, which is absolutely a leadership status where the leader works with the teams to identify the needed changes, creating a vision to guide the change through inspiration and executing the change in tandem with committed members of a group. Group means an organization, group means your department, group means the state, group means the economy, group means whatever you say. Under this background, I would now request Manmeet to throw light about what are the expectations that you see, that you foresee, taking into account the COVID-19 situation. What sort of leadership should you think should emerge from the corporates, should emerge from the nation as a whole, to steer out of the economy, the companies, the organizations from this unprecedented crisis? Manmeet, please.
Thanks, Pradeep, and I think special thanks to Mr. Subramaniam, Mr. Partho, and Nimai, I think, for inviting me for this all-important webinar for all of us. I think I'm privileged to be here as part of the entire webinar, And I was slightly surprised when you were placing the webinar at around 7 p.m. in the evening. I'm not sure whether people wanted to get into weekends or we are just barging into it. But happy to be seen here. I think I see a good number of people already joining, and would like to share my last few months, as you have rightly said, and as I think which Dr. Patra has also specified, this has been really unprecedented. And it's a once in a lifetime kind of situation I think we are all going through. Nobody has any data around it, what should we be doing, what happened in the past, and therefore what. Normally, in any such circumstances, you go back and check data and try to understand whether there's something to pick up and then kind of run along. So there was, if you ask me, this was one of the most extraordinary times when we didn't have anything to go back to in terms of data or in terms of analysis or in terms of insights to pick up such kind of a lockdown which can happen across not just countries across the world. And we had to respond and we had to come back to terms. So I'll break this, if you allow, all of you allow me, I'll try and break this, and probably I'll take 15 to 20 minutes of what I think I've just put together in terms of my thought, which I would like to share. Largely in three parts. First is the part in terms of leadership itself. What is leadership, and therefore, and it will be slightly bookish in terms of whatever we have learned. Everything, whatever we have learned, even in my management programs, I think everything is coming to practice and we are seeing more of it. So first part will be around leadership. Second part is about what transformational leadership is all about. And third part is when I'll actually touch upon COVID crisis in terms of how exactly a leader should be dealing with it. And if we are talking about transformations, how in this context, one has to really transform its organization. And there have been not just organizations, I think countries, big, small organizations, everybody has to undergo the same change. And therefore, it's basically what I'll try and do is break it into 2-3 parts and see if I can make sense to all of you for that. So first of all, as I think you've already introduced, I'm not going to introduce myself, but then I had the privilege of working with most of the FMCG, big FMCG brands, which is Cadbury, PepsiCo, Kellogg's for the time being. And happy to actually, once I'm talking to all of you, I have my peers across industry now. So I've been able to get a lot of feedback around what has happened, what they are doing, and what we can actually learn, cross-learn, and therefore pass to each other. So that is something which I will also share, what exactly they have been doing and what we can pick it up from there. But largely, it's more to do with what I will say. We actually have been very fortunate. I would say personally, I have been very fortunate. FMCG has been actually been on the other side of the problem, and therefore people are going after essentials, and therefore FMCG in the long run and even in the short to medium term are here to benefit out of it, because the spends will be largely over here, and probably will cut down on the capital cost, or you will cut down on the cost which probably you can delay at the specific time. But then FMCG is largely going to benefit out of it. But how does FMCG going to come back, transform itself, recast its ambitions is something I think all the FMCGs are trying to struggle. Also, there are GTM challenges, production challenges, which have been there, which have been plaguing us for the last 2-3 months. I think first of all, what I think in my regard, I would first try and call as what is leadership all about. And there's nothing which I'm going to be saying which is just from me. I think from the books, as we kind of recall, and as I go back to my things which I've studied in the past, which I've seen in the past, is actually the ability to influence a group towards achievement of a vision or a set goal. And that's where I think the leadership comes in, and therefore that's where the entire crux of it happens. And we all know that not all managers are born leaders and things like that. So something which an organization needs is a strong leadership to basically manage the optimum effectiveness in the specified area. And we need to be having leaders who can challenge the status quo, create vision, inspire people, take people along with them, and do the right things in terms and in the right way. So that's, I think, what the leadership is all about, first of all. And then, as we know, and I think as we go back in time, leadership itself has gone through many, I think, theories. And if I just go back, we all know and we can all recall, There is a theory which I think it started off the leadership journey for all of us in terms of understanding laissez-faire, where I think it was more of negative outcome, but then there was transactional leadership, which talked about contingent reward, management by exception. And then what we're going to talk today is about transformational leadership, which is all about. But then I think leadership itself has undergone a lot of concepts, changes, and it's something which right now what we are talking more is that you may be in the past or maybe pre-COVID, maybe in a transactional kind of a leadership, but it's time to transform, and that's where I think the focus on vision, the focus on a personal charisma or a motivation or being proactive in nature is something will be the need of the hour, and that's what I think largely we all know needs to be discussed and talked about. So I've been very fortunate also, I must tell you, while I talk to you about companies where I have been working in the past, in my very early part of my career, I had leaders like Rajiv Bakshi, who kind of turned around Cadbury. And I guess you all will remember a cricket ad, which was their real taste of life. He kind of actually brought Cadbury's to, he created GTMs, he kind of marketed, and it went almost to lower unit price point so that it can be made affordable and people can actually experience the product. So he was the one. So there are I think 5, 6 of such transformational leaders which I have seen across my career, and there is Mr. Bharat Puri, who handled an infestation and turned around actually Cadbury to a greater kind of a zenith after that, and it just moved up. They never looked back after that. Then I think when I was PepsiCo, I saw Mr. Gautam Mukhawali, who, after a phenomenal success of Kurkure, we had to kind of come in touch with, or we were challenged by local players and Bingo at that point of time. Then he was again there to transform the company, move it from a 1,000 crore company to a 4,000 odd crore company. In the recent past, as I'm working with a gentleman called Mohit Anand, who is my CEO right now in Kellogg's. Again, last 3 months have been, if you ask me, a huge learning curve for me in terms of what he has been able to do in times of crisis and take it forward from there. And I don't have to really say, but then you all know Indra Nooyi, and therefore I have worked in that company for last almost 9 years. And I had the privilege of really understanding how she kind of has transformed the organization from just a organization which used to sell beverages and foods to a organization which had really put the thing onto the Wall Street as performance with purpose, which she, I think, very well had articulated how the organization will move from better for you products in future. So I think we had a lot of, I had a lot of, I think, good time in terms of learning. And as I think the topic was given to me, I kind of looked back and tried to relate with these people, how they had actually transformed some of the organizations I've already worked for. And it's not just CEOs. It's actually some of your own leaders or somebody from even below who can actually come up and take a transformational role. It doesn't just go on the top, and that's not just it stays there. I think there have been other people who have been my mentors and coaches whom I also found that they actually were transformational in what they were doing. So that's something which is all about. And as we kind of go back and understand, I think there's a gentleman called James V. Downton, which near about around 1970s had actually introduced this concept called transformational leadership. And then James McGregor, I think Burns was there, who actually took this concept a little further and tried to develop it further. And that's just a background, just because the students are also there, just for their understanding that this is not coming out of COVID or anything. This is coming out. It has been there, and it was actually first created more politically, and then I think the businesses had been quick to pick it up as transformation, which they can actually translate and move forward upon. Moving on to what transformation leadership is all about. It basically has, I think, the 4 I's. I'm sure the students, professors would be able to relate to it, and we have already read it many a times. It talks about, I think, 4 central things, which is inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, idealized influence, individualized consideration, and all of this. While we can say that we are talking about now a post-COVID scenario, these topics are very, very relevant. And I think the 4 I's actually really right now come right on the top when we actually go a little deep into it and try to understand what these 4 concepts within the transformational leadership is all about. And what does it really do, and what does it really tell the leaders to really look into themselves while practicing or teaching that in their own organization. So first thing, I think, and just want to quickly touch upon, not going to take much time on that, but idealized influence is all about, are you purpose driven? Are you a role model? Are you walking the talk? Inspirational motivation within that is the another eye, which says about, are you inspiring? Are you inspiring your followers? Or do you have an idea which others get really start doing on their own themselves? The third, I think, was individualized consideration, where we know people driven. Are you people driven? Do you have genuine concern for need of followers, or are you just doing for the sake of doing? And I think the final thing is that intellectual stimulation, which is innovation, challenging followers to be innovative and creative. And now when we look at all this, what has happened over the past, I think, 2-3 months, uh, there are leaders, and I think I'm sure all of you would agree and disagree to a little extent. I don't want to get into business leaders right now, but politically, you would have seen how different countries have approached different this times. There is Mr. Trump, and then there is Mr. Modi, and then there is our own leader, Mamata Banerjee. And I'm not going to put anything on that, but in your own thing, if I just put and plot these four eyes, how have they kind of really stood on this is something, I guess, it's a big reflection for all of us and the society to really look up to our leaders at this point of time, because they're very much visible at this point of time in terms of what they are doing and how they're handling this crisis. And there are, I must tell you, there are people who kind of have benefited from the crisis, which is, if you go to Germany, you see the leadership there. It was not really up there at one point of time, but look at how they have been able to manage it, and then the leadership comes very strong. So there have been also challenges on Italy and Spain, where leadership has been really been called upon, that they're not done enough, or France for that matter. So I think there are a lot of examples which we saw in the last 2-3 months, which really gives us a good sneak preview into what exactly all these four eyes we're talking about. And what a scenario, I guess, we all had to sit together. And while we are all sitting at homes attending these webinars, but I think in this lockdown, I think what we have experienced, I think probably it's once in a lifetime, probably will not be able to experience again. But then it talks about which organizations, and within that you would have seen, experience yourself, which have been able to service you and kind of come together at this time, are the ones who have actually done innovation, have been creative in their approach. And this would have largely come from leadership, how a leader has been innovative, creative, how has he really challenged his team, how has he mentored, or how has he empathized during these times, how has been he purposeful, or how strong was he in his skills. So, and I think at this point of time, I was largely looking to my even own organization, how were they role modeling all this? Were they really concerned about people, or were they concerned about the business? And I think I was very fortunate to see that my company and many other companies, I think the forefront for everyone was to get the people first as the first angle, which is, I think, walking the talk. When it comes to safety, we're going to take care of people first and let the business follow it later. So if you, as I think you would recall, there was a very, I think, a quote from Richard Branson, if I may quote, take care of your people and people will take care of your business. I think it became very relevant in the last 2-3 months. Those who have been able to really do that, I think the businesses have come back to a certain extent. There is a bit difference in terms of degree, how businesses have come back. Some have actually done well, some have not done well, but then largely it all depended upon how the leadership team there is handling, and do they have a clear vision, or are they really trying to really remove the barriers and trying to come out on top of it. So that's, I think, on the part where the four concepts largely talk about connecting, innovating, inspiring, and role modeling, as per whatever my understanding on the, and I think the professors are there, they can actually help us more in terms of identifying, but that's what I picked it up over the last few months. And I think whoever has been able to model the way has been encouraged, has been able to encourage its people, inspire its people, and has enabled or has kind of removed barriers, has been able to do well, and has in the event, he would have also challenged some of the processes and kind of have come up on the top. So that's largely, I think, if you ask me, is about what transformational leadership is all about. And the qualities which one was looking at, and what I think we all got inspired by, was, is my leader inspiring? Is he challenging? Is he engaging? Is he one who develops me? And is he the one who is aligning me what he's going to do next? So that's, I guess, from my side in terms of what transformational leader I think can really bring around. and what is the journey he has to make from a transactional leadership to maybe a transformational leadership, which I think is a big change. And we have seen across, I think, political government organizations, organizations like us, organizations smaller or bigger, where I think this shift, if a leader hasn't been able to make, then I think the organizations have suffered or people have suffered and they've not been able to come back on top of it. So that's, I guess, on the overall things. Overall, I guess, again, if I have to again look out for what are the habits which these transformational leaders may have, they of course practice a lot of self-awareness. They kind of work independently, self-manage. I've looked at many of such as I was reflecting back, what is this transformational leadership all about? And then I kind of came to these few things which I found that they do it very well. That is why they are transformational leaders in their own style. And they kind of motivate, set the vision. They kind of are adaptive, innovative. They build networks. They're proactive. They're open-minded. They build trust in the people. They lead with a lot of humility, and they kind of have taken very difficult decisions over the last few months. So that's what I think the COVID has really pushed the leaders also to really make a choice. And coming on to, I think, COVID now, the third part of what I wanted to kind of really put it up there was we have been all talking about a VUCA world, right? Nothing can be, I think, greater as an example than I think currently what we have all gone through. It's absolutely volatile out there. It's absolutely uncertain what the future is going to look like. It's very complex. How do you manage your business? And there's a lot of ambiguity. Even if you have to really, God forbid, that if anybody contracts COVID, there's a lot of ambiguity how you get out, and therefore there's a lot of ifs and buts and how you kind of come out, how will the hospitals handle you and things like this. Lots and lots of that, which is, if you ask me, we have been kind of exposed to this in no time, and together, all of us together. There's not that one person can say. I think everyone has actually gone through this challenge. So organizations, if you ask me, have been actually forced to think differently in this time. That's what COVID has done. Nowhere, I think the strategy which was there in the past can be now applied, and therefore, as I think, as we are hearing from the panel as well, I think nowhere we are saying that whatever was working will work, and therefore the future will be like this. Innovation is something which company has to constantly do. Agility is something the companies, organizations have to specifically keep on doing in terms of really keeping itself with the requirement or the customer needs. So the customer, if you ask me, the companies, the organizations, or the organizations like us or FMCG, we are now thinking, how can we be more consumer-centric at this point of time? How can we be more relevant to the consumer right now? How can we be more adaptive in terms of changing the way we used to operate, the ways of working, the GTM, the go-to-market, all the products which we had? And in all that, can we be a bit more agile in whatever decision-making we are doing and in terms of whatever we need to do, execute in the market? So I again, as I kind of look into the crisis, I think this crisis is something which is larger than anything. It's not a personal crisis. It's not a team crisis. It's not a company crisis. It's not a society, but it's all in one this point of time. So this is unlike any other crisis where a company goes through an infestation, they want to recall a product. There is a big change this time, and I think that's what I think leadership in crisis is more. Actually, leadership needs a crisis to shine through, and this is time when actually leadership in crisis is more about who you are than what you know. And not many of my leaders, or as I kind of have been talking to many, not that all the leaders had answers for it, but I think they were looking for answers from us, from people who have been working, from any channel, any resource, and I think that's what was the biggest thing of a learning for all of us. So leadership in crisis, if you ask me, the checklist is first is that do we face reality? Things always can get worse than they get better. What I also found in my last 2-3 months, a leader is not an atlas. He's not going to pick up the organization on the back of himself and therefore say that I have answers for everything. Crisis and trust are inversely actually correlated over here. And the trust goes down if crisis is not handled well. I think deliver before you ask others to deliver is what also came to the light during the last during this crisis. Then make changes where needed, and you can't really delay it. You have to do it at the same time. And what I think the leaders, what I saw during the last 2-3 months of this crisis, again as transformational leaders whom I've worked right now with, they actually were very calm and very composed. Even if they had something which is within them, which is kind of taking a toll on themselves, they were very dispassionate. They were not trying to become very dispassionate or disinterested. They were trying to actually really make up for that. They were communicating very honestly. The emotional leadership or emotion IQ was very, very high. They were good in terms of they're trying to manage expectations. They were talking a lot. They were inspiring a lot. And that's what I think is all about transformational leaders as well as we kind of look at. Uh, so what I think I intend to cover it over here is that doing nothing is not a strategy at this point of time. Good strategy, of course, responds to change and stretches capabilities, resources that you give an advantage. And so you got two choices over here. And the two choices, I think the transformational leadership has to really go through. And if you are a transformational leader, probably what you will do is pivot and pivot through left, right, center, just to ensure that you're up there, but ensure that you don't perish. So I think the three-word strategy for me for will be a pivot or a perish. That's what I guess as leader, as transformational leader, one had to do. And I can now actually give you example for my company in terms of what they have been able to do. So what we are doing right now is that first priority for us was to rebuild whatever we have lost, say in March or April. And the second priority is that even while we were rebuilding, trying to rebuild it, we had a lot of learnings during this time, and therefore idea was to build from learning. And the third thing was, now since we have started to rebuild and are building from learning, how do we build for future? Now, those are three things which I think is also kind of related to what a transformational leader will do. So that's, I guess, from my side, and happy to take various questions, anything, and probably I'll take a pause here if something needs to be understood more. Probably I can spend more time on
that. Thank you so much, Manmeet, and it was really thought-provoking. A couple of things which came up from your discussion, which I could identify myself being in HR, is that one thing is certain about this COVID is that there is no data to support. It's absolutely unprecedented. It's happening for the first time. And the leadership, what you mentioned is absolutely correct. It's undergoing changes. More so in a situation, in a crisis like this, you don't know what type of leadership will emerge and what is best fit for what, under what conditions. It's still a guess, because we still don't know the extent of loss, the amount of adversities that has been impacted directly or indirectly to our organizations, to our economy, to our nation as a whole. You said one very important thing: leadership needs a crisis to shine. Absolutely. I think this is a crisis from where you will find different types of leadership which are not there in the books, which will come up. And those leaders will steer the nation, the economy, the organizations to a brighter future. Absolutely correct. And one thing which I liked, one thing which you mentioned, which struck me, is under these circumstances, it is the people first. The people are the first to take care of. If your people are there, your organizations will survive and thrive. If people are not there, what is the purpose of having the organization? So people first is very, very important. And the thing which you mentioned is that organizations are forced to think differently. Absolutely correct. It's a different proposition, different ball game altogether, because we don't have any data to support, to back on, because we don't know what's going to happen in the coming future. Thank you so much. Now I move on to Trina. Trina, what is your take on the transformational leadership? What do you think? You are from the Tata Communications, which is something different. Your organization has a different perspective, I think, as far as leadership, as far as passing, because I think you are one of the hardest hit as far as this COVID-19 is concerned. So what do you think are the strategies which the organization should adopt to overcome this, and whether what sort of transformation leadership? Because transformation leadership, if you say, the qualities which is required, which Manmeet very clearly pointed out, maybe I can add a couple of things. A transformational leader is a quiet leader, if I am to say. And he is the one who leads by example. Manmeet very rightly mentioned, it's a question of an empathy. It's a question of emotion. It's something more than that, because you are stretching your entire team under uncertain conditions to get the desired results. So it is something more than a defined set of leadership which you need to be explained. I would request you, Trina, to come up with what do you think should be the ingredients to have a perfect transformation leadership, considering the COVID-19 as a background, more so the type of organization from which you are coming from. Please.
Sure. Thank you so much. We have learned from our textbooks, from our institutions, from colleges, from our MBA books, that change is the only constant, right? However, this COVID-19, I think, breaks all change, and the disruption that we have seen, is unprecedented. There is a lot of disruptions which we have seen. Now, the ripples which has been created in the last 3 months, I think there has been no industry or no business which has not come into this whirlpool of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the kind of change that was required, right now we are already 3 months into the change. Organizations have kind of settled down right now, I can say, because if you ask me, our organization started the work from home policy from middle of March, and we are a telecommunications company. And as you rightly mentioned, that we have been worst hit because our entire business model depends on fiber network connectivity and mobile network. So definitely, and we are the only company, the largest company who has the largest subsea fiber cable. So we have 5.5 million lakh kilometers of fiber cable which is running. So imagine the kind of disruptions which has been caused to us. Now, what I would like to do is, let me just put together, I've put together something, so which I would like to represent. Just let me know if you're able to see my screen. So I have basically tried to put the priorities in terms of the business and in terms of the employee priorities that we saw during these uncertain times. So health and well-being was definitely one of the topmost priorities. And I think I would relate not this only to a corporate, as Principal Sir mentioned, that this is applicable to every institution that we are working right now. So health and well-being is definitely one of the topmost priority for us. The second business priority for us was managing remote work. So we definitely had a continuous BCP. So every organization, every institution has a business continuity planning team. But I don't think that invoking the BCP team all at once had ever happened, which happened in the last 3 months. If anyone would have told us that you have to invoke your BCP team all at once, it would have seemed unbelievable for us. But right now, it's a fact. So managing the remote work. So we as an organization already had a natural BCP. Now, when I say natural BCP, what I mean is that in our organization, every joiner is given a laptop when they join the organization. So there is no concept of desktop. So, many organizations, if I read whatever I have read through so much, I have seen that they have actually struggled to put the logistics in place, because procuring so many laptops and ensuring connectivity and everything was a bigger problem. But we somehow managed through that. The third was jobs and continuity. So we heard from you, Pradeep sir, and we heard from Manmeet as well. There has been so many job cuts. There has been so many layoffs which has happened in the industry. So definitely the jobs and the continuity of jobs were one of the priority area for us. I will definitely talk about how we manage that, and definitely maintaining the mental health as well. So when we talk about an overall wellness, it is not only the physical wellness of the employees, the mental health also, because when you are working from home, we have a lot of employees who are staying alone. They do not have any caretaker, or they do not have anybody to look after. So for them, managing stress, managing the uncertainty was definitely one of the topmost business priority. From an employee perspective, the first and foremost thing was financial security. these times are the times of appraisals, of performance management. So there have been a lot of ambiguity in terms of whether, the increments will be paid off. And as you all might have read in the newspapers, that one of our group companies, which is Tata Consultancy Services, had stopped increments, and they have declared that they are not going to give any increments for this year. So that definitely was one of the ask, or one of the financial security that we were addressing. Secondly, for employees also, health, well-being, family was definitely one of the concern areas, because a lot of employees, they have old parents at home to take care of, they have small babies at home to take care of. So managing work and managing home, and also ensuring that there is no dip in productivity, was definitely one of the topmost priorities. Now, how did we address those? So I have just tried to put across some of the points which we as an organization did. So the first and foremost thing was planning and adjusting the utilization of the workforce. So we definitely categorized employees into essential and non-essential companies. As you all are aware that we are a telecommunications company. So we have a lot of field operations people who actually work on setting up the network and connecting the cables and everything. So those people were actually categorized as essential services people. And initially, 20% of the workforce is actually working from office. And while they were working from office, we actually took entire, we planned that they should be taken care of, because they were frontline employees. So we created a crisis management team to support them. The third part was transitioning the employees to remote work. So right now, as of today, we have 90%, 98% of our population who are actually working from home. So we have enabled the remote working. We have provided the tools and training. So we have Microsoft Teams enabled for people who are working from home. And we have, and when I say remote working, not only employees working, we have actually digitalized everything, right from our onboarding process to our recruitment process to our induction. Everything is happening today virtually, including our learning and development programs. And most important during this time is a transparent and hyper communication. So when I say that, actually this is a time where communication is of utmost importance. Communication from the leadership, communication from the internal communications team, communication from HR, because that is where the the employees look for. So we have actually enabled platforms where we are sending transparent and communication every day on not only COVID, on how to manage the overall situation. And as a last part, what we have done is we are taking regular feedback from employees on the engagement through pulse surveys, and implementing those action plan from the surveys that we are getting, and also ensuring that the critical businesses operations that we have, we are ensuring continuity of that as well. And in all this, definitely one key player that we have is our customers. So we have actually gone to the customers and told them the situation, and they have been proactive enough to understand and support us during this, disruptive time. So I'll take a pause here. I do have something else also, but I think I will take that as a post thing, because that is actually what I want to talk about. What is the future of work, and how do we return to work post this pandemic? Because somewhere down the line, I think we will have to return to office, and there will be a time. But how do we manage that is something which I will talk about in my next couple of slides. But I'll take a pause right now.
Thank you so much, Trina. It was really insightful. More so, you were discussing about the business continuity and health and well-being and the financial security. So that is, I think these are the pillars now, because people are so insecure. People are feeling so unsafe, not only from the health perspective, also from the future, what will happen, if whether I'll be able to retain my job, whether I'll be able to work in the same organization, what will happen if the company tells me to leave, and that is happening. Right sizing, downsizing, whatever term you use, the question is people are being told to leave the organizations. Now, taking this as a pretext, I would request Manmeet to tell that as a leader under this, in fact, as a transformational leader, what is your take relating to this stability, unstable factors which are resulting a sense of insecurity within the employees? How will you be able to restore that confidence? Because I think at this point of time, the most important thing relating to transformational leadership is to ensure the confidence that you are working with the people. So, what is your take in that?
So, I guess the saddest part of this entire COVID. Hello. Yeah. I think the saddest part for all of us will be when company has to downsize or has to, as they kind of technically call it, right size. The businesses are actually getting disrupted because of this, and there are business cases around it. Why we need to cut down? Like if the stores are getting closed, you probably need to get out of it, and therefore you can't really do anything about those staff or things like that. Is something, a scenario which we are all seeing around the world and also in India. But at the same time, I guess that's what transformational leadership is all about. We know this, we are all into the crisis, right? And transformation leader, I think the biggest thing is within that is that how do you kind of in these crisis times kind of come out on top by actually empathizing of the situation and trying to understand what can be done. Now there are various ways of really looking at it, and there are examples also within the industry which so I can tell you an example from my company. We have actually gone ahead with the promotions, we have actually gone ahead with the raises, and we have actually gone ahead with hiring people. Okay, and our leadership is very clear. They're very clear. They said, look, the brands can wait, the operations can wait, the marketing can wait, the sales can wait, but people are the first we need to take care of, and that's what as the philosophy, which what I think this company has been operating. So worldwide, we haven't cut any of the manpower, and neither we intend to do that, because I think there are various ways of really handling this. So there are organizations which kind of have also come out that okay, there will be a pay cut, and therefore we are all together in it. It's not that you, me, or anybody. But I think you're absolutely bang on that the biggest crisis can be if you lose a job. What do you do next? You have loans to be paid off. You have to take care of a family, and all that stuff is all there. So you, at this point of time, is when actually you stand tall as a leader and say that people first. And that is what I said. People first has come out very, very clear from my organization. What I've seen, and also as you kind of walk across other industry which has been largely impacted, like I take an example of Bajaj, where I think Mr. Bajaj has clearly, categorically said that no employee cuts whatsoever. So I think that's a very, very kind of a big humping kind of a decision if somebody can make it at end. And that shows on to be that, yes, in these times, and I'm sure these are times which will pass on. And I think in the history of, I think our civilization, we have seen times, crisis times coming and going. People have survived. And that's what I think my take will be. There are ways of utilizing this. This is not the only way of really chucking out people or telling that, okay, we don't have anything else. That's where innovation and agility comes to. So I think the easiest thing for us, to all of us, is to cut down on investments, to cut down. So I actually, if you ask me, I'll probably cut down on my next 3 to 5 year investments on capital allocation. I will not do that, but I will probably take care of my people, because when the times were right, these people were very, very in particular for me, and therefore they were the need of the hour, and therefore they needed to be there. I don't see demand going anywhere. I think we are seeing a disruption in demand. What we can do is that we can be more innovative about the entire thing and see that what can be done to really ensure that. So some of the FMCG companies that you would have seen that it's they've come up with even sanitizers and things like that. So you can actually move from one production to another production, and similarly many industries can move from one to another and try and see where is the opportunity out there. Yes, I think the last choice for all of any of the organizations should be that we have to chuck people and we have to take them out. That's the last thing I think. But you have to find be very innovative.
That's great, Manmeet. In fact, not to cut people, but to cut investments, to cut your future plans. That is what you are trying to say, and that is exactly should be the thought process of the industry. One thing which you rightly mentioned is that taking the opportunity, which our Honorable Prime Minister also has mentioned that this is the opportune moment where you can take the most out of it. Maybe the gain you'll not see in the short term, but in the long term you'll see this. I'll ask Trina that taking that into consideration, as a transformational leader, what are the opportunities which you can see can be taken under this period of crisis? If I to take, because we have been discussing a lot of negative things, let us see the other side of the coin. There are opportunities in spite of being in such a unprecedented situation. Opportunities will be there. So, as a transformational leader, what are the opportunities which you can see under this testing times, trying times?
Right. So, as Manmeet mentioned, that even in our organization, we did not have any job cuts, whereas we did freeze new hires. However, the hiring process continues to be there virtually today. We are doing that. Now, coming to what are the opportunities that we have on the positive side, I think right now the time is about upskilling oneself. Now, when I say upskilling, we have been doing our jobs in a certain way. But right now, if you see that the kind of skills, for example, as I was telling that, I have a slide on how things are going to change. So we have till now, we thought that technology is a disruption for human beings. We were actually implementing AI and technology. We were implementing robots in our offices, and we were chucking out people. But right now, if you see, take for example the healthcare industry, the consumer industry, or the travel and the vertical, they have integrated automation into their system. So right now, actually, human beings and technology, they are complementing each other. So that is definitely one of the key learnings which we have taken right now, that how we can integrate automation, how we can use artificial intelligence in our day-to-day work, but at the same time, we use human beings also, because without human beings, we will not be able to survive. Because if that would have been the case, then all our offices would have been running with only technology, barring any human resources or any people in the organization. The second thing is about the way we are learning. So, as you mentioned, as Sir also mentioned, Patra Sir mentioned that, we were doing offline. So, we were doing offline classroom sessions and everything. But now it is not possible. But does it mean that, our learning stops? So, that cannot be the case. So, right now what we have done is we have digitized our entire learning and development programs. So, that includes everything which is happening digitally. So we have partnered with collaborators, online collaborators. There are so many online collaborators like Coursera, Udemy, we all are aware, because for our individual learnings also we refer to them. So we have partnered with such collaborators to ensure that our people are getting reskilled into the kind of skill sets that we foresee for the future. Because what we have done so far in the past is not going to sustain us. So what we need to do is we need to relook at the skills that is going to be required for the future and continuously upskill ourselves. And that is, I think, one of the key aspects of transformational leadership, that you need to be able to think through, you need to be agile, and you need to think out of the box. So that is what transformational leadership is all about. And we haven't seen any time than this to implement everything that we have learned so far.
Thank you, Trina. Basically, you are wanting an integration of the automation to the maximum extent possible, so that it is correlated with the human resources.
Right.
So at any point of time, we should not discard the human resources. At the same time, upskilling is required to the maximum extent possible, so that we can use automation to the maximum extent. That is, I think, what you are trying to say. Absolutely. So I think this is the opportunities which is required at this point of time, because there is always a silver lining. We always should not have the negativity being spread across all. Now, I would like to take questions. Sir, I don't know what is the time limit. Sir, so maybe questions from the learned faculty, questions from the students. Most welcome to the two esteemed panelists. If any question is there, so that we can take the questions, because as of now, it has been a very interesting session. A lot of deliberations, a lot of thought process has been shared. And I would request a revert from all the distinguished panelists, all the distinguished speakers. Yes, please.
Sir,
Any
Surbhi
questions?
Tanna here.
Yes, please, please.
Hello.
Yes, please. We can hear you.
Hello, Sir, Surbhi Tanna here.
Yeah, please continue. Please continue.
Sir, my question is for Manmeet sir. Sir, my question is for Manmeet sir, and the question is that he spoke about that he has met 4 to 5 transformational leaders in his life. So, sir, what was common in all those people? What was common in them?
So actually, that is the reason why I touched upon the theory as well. And the theory very well embodies what these guys are all made up of and what do they actually do to basically, as we kind of validate them, yeah, they look like transformational leaders. So if you look at the 4 eyes, they actually stand tall on all the 4 eyes, maybe to a degree or less or more, but then largely they are there in terms of what they look like. So they are somebody who actually influences you, right? And by the way they operate, the way they kind of do stuff is they kind of give you that individual kind of attention or something which you really feel proud to be part of. They actually push your limits, which is like they intellectually push you, they stimulate you to think. They will not really let you just be there that okay, I'm deciding and therefore you do. They will actually push you for a lot of things which they are may not be. So they show their vulnerability at times. It's not that I'm God and I know everything. So they are very human in the way they kind of approach things. They kind of inspire you to actually deliver more. So it's not that what my leader is carrying a plan with himself. I actually may come back and say, sir, I can do a little better because I feel very inspired by whatever he is doing or whatever he has kind of put it as a purpose, which I feel is phenomenal. And then I have kind of bought into it. So they have been able to inculcate that kind of say influence on me, which really kind of pushes me aside. And then as he has kind of set the agenda for me, as he's kind of taking people along, and as he is doing the right way of things, which he has been able to do, he has also become an idol for me. So, which is what the last part of that I is where I kind of idolize him. Okay, I want to be one like that because he walks the talk, whatever he says. So, therefore, all these leaders are very consistent in their approach. They have a lot of empathy. They have a lot of kind of belief, trust, which they kind of carry or give it to their employees. And therefore, you do it not just for the purpose of that you are in a job, but you do it because you actually love to be part of a process or love to be part of something which is a journey, which is a vision which he has kind of created, and you want to be a part of that journey. And there are like many such examples. While the ones which I have given out from my leadership team, where I've seen a Cadbury making infestation, which is a big crisis for any kind of a company where when a product kind of is kind of pushed back by the consumer saying that there's something wrong, and then you kind of turn that crisis into an opportunity saying that we're going to come back very strongly. And let me tell you that in the next 3 to 5 years, the company doubled its volume. And that's the power of a transformational leadership when he kind of stands up or kind of comes down under pressure. And not just that, I think look around, maybe for example, Mahatma Gandhi, or say look for an example like Martin Luther King. There are many political examples as well, and I think for us to right now relate with organizations, look at what Jeff Bezos has been able to do, transform, say, from an Amazon store which used to sell books, then into what all now. And I think how he has been able to really create lots and lots of jobs over the period. And same with, I think, Richard Branson, who used to be the poster boy some time back for many of the organizations, what he has been able to really do with his people and really influence and inspire his people to do many such things. So he has, I think, near about 400 odd companies which comes out from Virgin. Look at our one, actually, Tata's. Look at, I guess, many of the organizations even within India, which where people have been able to do a lot of stuff which probably one would have not even thought, and they've kind of completely turned it around. I think Ratan Tata again is a great example of how he has been able to transform the Tatas into where it is now.
I think what Manmeet was telling and what we can draw inference is that problem statement is the same. You take the example of COVID-19. It's how the different leaders reacting to the same crisis and handling it and how efficiently it is being handled. I think that is what a successful transformational leader is all about. You have the problem statement COVID-19 across the globe. You have countries like New Zealand where the Prime Minister, this lady coming up with a statement that New Zealand is free from COVID-19. Such is the way she has handled the crisis in such a situation. Now she has banned social distancing in New Zealand. And you also have criticism from countries like developed, quote unquote, first world countries like Italy, Spain, France, or where the leadership is being questioned and criticized, how they are being able to handle the situation. So it's a problem statement being the same. It's how you are tackling the situation. Same case with our country also. Certain states are an example. For example, the state of Kerala has been an example even to the United Nations, to the World Health Organization, of how the COVID is being tackled. At the same, you will find states where they are not being to that extent successful due to a lot many reasons. So transformational leadership is all about handling the situation. Maybe the same crisis is there across some of the sectors, across some of the substrata of the organization, maybe economy, maybe, or whatever it is, and how that leader is coming up through his leadership, through his capability, through his skills. I would request further questions if there are any from the honorable.
Sir, I have a question.
Listeners. Please continue. Please continue.
Sir, my name is Pavel Sarkar, and I just want to ask a question first question to Manmeet sir. Hello, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Sir, my question is that from due to this devastating pandemic situation, some of the specific companies like Twitter, they say that they will continue the work from home after post-COVID scenario. So, what do you think about this, first of all? And do you think that it is possible to continue the work from home in the post-COVID scenario? Because it obviously impacted the mindset of the employees. So, what do you think about it, first of all?
So, I think great question, and that is to many of us the same question. Since the pandemic is not going anywhere over right now, and the cases are only going up, a lot of people have the same question in mind. I can tell you about my organization as well. While Bombay is open and we are also open, we are supposed to go back to office, but our has till 30th June have said nobody comes to office. We still want to review the situation before we come back to work. Why? I think very simple thing. If any of one contracts this COVID, it's something which we don't want to really get into, right? And if the safety, if the work is carrying on and you are not in the front line, where you have to actually go there in the market, supplying or taking orders or things like that, that also a lot of automation is happening nowadays in terms of online and things like that. So companies are kind of taking a proactive step in terms of resorting to a situation where they are kind of, some of the companies have already announced that for next 1 year, 2 years, we'll be working from home. Some companies have said it for next 3 months. Some companies are saying we wait and watch. But I think this is the new normal. We know the schools are not going to open up for next 2 months as well. And they're going to open up, whenever they open up, it is in phases. All that, I think, in time of a COVID, where it's very uncertain. If you come to the office, you may contract, you may get, or you may be a carrier. So that's, I think, something which all the companies are trying to avoid. What I think your second question was, do you think that this will continue? I think this may continue. Maybe the front line may not be kind of getting into it. They may have to still work, but maybe they have to work in hours where I think they're not really coming into more social contacts. Apart from that, I think this situation is going to prevail. it's not that the companies over here are saying that you will never have to come to office. So maybe once a week, maybe once in a fortnight, maybe whenever you have a chance and whenever the company organization is telling you, maybe you have to do 4 visits in a month. So people are kind of resorting to those things where it's not that we are telling you completely socially distance yourself even from the office. There will be ramifications of this. Therefore, one is not saying that it's a complete no-no. But yes, for some work, which is the meeting probably, which you think we could have done coming to the office, which is now becoming more virtual. Even within, I think, many of the offices, if they have opened, there are virtual meetings happen even within different rooms. So those are kind of things which will maybe continue, not just Twitter and many other companies.
Thanks, Manmeet, for that feedback. Any more questions anybody would like to ask, please, to the panelists?
Very good evening, everyone. This is Sonak Basu.
Good
My
evening,
question.
Sonak.
So my question to my learned speakers is that during this COVID-19 pandemic, many multinational organizations, firms, they have reduced the strength of employees, and we have also heard that many companies have reduced the taking of employees to the organization. So what will be the role of the transformational leaders like HRs, managers, and other leaders in the company management and recruiters to actually increase the recruitment and to have a balance and maintain the recruiters program?
So you want me to take, or Srina, you want to go ahead, or how do you want to do it? The question is to both of us, right?
Yes, both of them.
So Srina, you may then.
Yeah, sure. So, Sonak, actually, if you know the what I said is that a lot of companies, yes, they are laying off, and that is where the upskilling or the reskilling thing, which I was talking about, comes into the picture. While there are a lot of organizations, it also depends majorly into the nature of the business that the organization is into. So today, if you see the travel, the airlines, the manufacturing industry, they have been the worst hit. And that is where we see the maximum layoffs happening, because they have been actually out of business. So there is no revenue which they are generating. So today they cannot ask staff to come and pay salaries. So that is where, you know, the upskilling or how we are dealing, or what is the capability that we are building. So as Manmeet had mentioned that, you know, there are a lot of organizations which are diversifying into business as well. So today, if you see, if you go on Myntra, you know, there are companies like Wildcraft, or there are companies which I see like Spiker. They are actually manufacturing masks and sanitizers and disinfectants. So they are actually diversifying their business model, because if you want to sustain, you have to think differently. So I don't think that, you know, hiring or jobs will be a problem. The skill gap will definitely be a problem. If you do not have the relevant skill which is required in the market, then definitely you don't have to wait for a COVID. We will actually go out of business any soon. So that is the reason we have to constantly upgrade ourselves. We have to constantly change with the times. That is what my view is.
I think I completely kind of echo with what Trina is saying. I think it depends on sector to sector. The extreme sector right now, of course, is the tourism. Of course, is the airline or the hospitality areas. But again, I think let's take a pause and try and think whether this will be the new reality. People will stop traveling. People will not really go out for marriages, for their own business interest and things like that. How much of this can really translate into online? I'm not so sure right now. So yes, there is this, and I think the view what one has to have is what is the long-term plan. If Make My Trip has to be in the business of tourism for a long period of time, then this is something probably one has to deal through, and they have to come with their partners together into this, saying, okay, how are we going to handle this crisis? But right now, if you ask me, many other industries which are not on the extreme side. So today, if you ask me, just pre-COVID, we were thinking that millennials will no more buy houses, or they will no more buy cars. Now, cars is something which now people are saying that you should have your own vehicle to travel and all that. It just got reversed. So one does not know when things open up, you may like to have your own personal transport and things like that. So maybe that industry is going to bounce back. So right now it all depends on which sector you are. What is your long-term strategy? If our long-term strategy is to expand to grow business like an FMCG, I'll probably, yes, there is a short term of this impact which I have to go through. Now, for that, I have to have my cash reserves and I have to get my cash flows right in terms of revenues. If that is coming, then I need to first salvage that I can manage these people or not. Then I think I can come back together on that. But yeah, right now, it all depends on which sector you are and what is the long-term strategy rather than just being on a short-term, okay, let's cut it. And to, I think, Trina's point, if there was a strategy that we had to cut down on people and that's a long-term strategy that eventually we're going to cut down because of robotics and artificial intelligence, things like that, then that's a different case altogether. But in case it's just COVID, I think one has to still evaluate what is that you can still do in terms of going through this crisis and not really do a knee-jerk reaction to the entire thing, because you will lose your skill, you will lose your skilled resources. It's difficult to again hire them back, and even if you get fresh from the market, it's going to be a circle of near about 1.5 years.
Absolutely correct. What Trina and Manmeet was telling, that I think you don't need a COVID to upskill yourself. To upgrade yourself, it's an ongoing thing, because the more you upgrade, the more you integrate automation, the more these two things, the human resources is integrated with the latest automation. It is better for the organization as a whole and for the human being or the human resource in particular. So a COVID is not required for upscaling or upgrading. So it's a process, and exactly what Manmeet was telling is that it depends upon the sector in which you are into. It's as I've told you before, it's an opportunity. Certain sectors have opened up. It's absolutely. Now you need a car. Now people are thinking to use their own four-wheelers to commute to the office. So maybe the automobile sector will increase like anything. So these things, the opportunities are there. There is always the silver lining. There is always some opportunity along with this at this hour of crisis. Maybe we are running short of time. So at this point of time, we'll not be able to take any more questions. But obviously, Manmeet and Trina are both, you can always take offline. They are always there.
Sir, I have a question, if you may allow.
Please go ahead.
But you need to hurry up, please, because we are.
One question to Manmeet. Please. From a very what do you call it, as simple person's eye, what we see is that revenue is getting affected. That's number one. Number two is with the social distancing and all these norms of operating the business, how do you manage retailing? Because your logistic, retailing, all getting affected. People are not being able to go and get orders and all those stuff. Customers are not being able to go to the stores.
Yeah, so I'll share you a couple of 2-3 examples what has happened, and I'll take live things what was actually happening when this COVID crisis. So the first thing which happened to all of us is that our factories got shut down, and the retailers also got shut down. And then the government announced that yes, essential is allowed. So therefore, no issues, the grocery shops can open. But by that time, our guys who were taking the orders or suppliers or delivery men had already left or they were not there. So therefore, innovation starts working. And this is where the innovation I'm telling you about came in. So we started from our distributors calling the retailers, if you need stock, probably I can come halfway. Some of the deliveries I can make it myself, but I don't have my own people. So if you can come and pick up in your own vehicle. So he said, no, I don't have my own vehicle. He said, but I have my car. So if you actually have looked at it, government even allowed that even the passenger vehicles or the people who have their own private vehicles can carry stocks for that time. So there were like those innovations which happened, like normally we used to make physical calls or physical interaction. It became telecalling. It became over the phone what you want. And that's the same thing which you saw was happening in e-commerce as well, where probably you were trying to give order and the big basket guys or somebody else was really coming and trying to deliver it. But then they were also like completely piled up with orders and all that stuff. So what has happened is that while the production got stopped, in a week's time, all the FMCGs, all the companies which are in essential kind of moved back to the government. And I myself is part of a crisis management team where I was leading for Kellogg's India, all India interaction in terms of how do we kind of come back and rebuild the entire business. So I'm leading a team where I have a finance guy, where I have the legal guy, then I have somebody from sales supply chain, then I have somebody from regulatory affairs. So what we were doing was we were opening town by town, we were opening CSA by CSA, just to ensure that we kind of open up. Once we started opening up, we of course could not fully optimize it. We came at, I think the first month came at near about 55, 50, 60 odd percent. The second month, let me tell you, we almost come at a close of 100%. And this month, as we are trending, we are actually going to topple our last year June numbers. So it's again up to, I think, the individual organizations how to really read this as a crisis. It may be 1 or 2 months. So it's the ability of a transformational leader to how to respond back faster is what transformational leaders do all of. While everybody will come back to terms, but I think the transformational leaders will stand. People who know how to make a turn around. And I was part, as I was telling you, I was made part of a team saying that you guys need to really handle, and that was directly we were in touch with MD and all the directors in the company so that we don't face any problem in terms of whatever decision making we have to do. So we were quick to do that because decision making was simply decentralized. So that actually helped us do a lot of calls which are at local, and all the frontline who were working, we were not very prescriptive to them. We were telling them, you take a call what is right because safety is first. If you can go ahead, deliver it, please go ahead and deliver it. But we will not really, so we gave 100% of the incentives without really looking at numbers for the 2 months. Because we launched a people care package where we ensured that the people are taken care, their financials are taken care, because we knew the business is going to come back to terms very soon, today or tomorrow. It's actually in these times when people really actually test the leadership and the organization. And today, if you ask me, when I have a lot of pride in when I'm saying all this to you, is that the company stood tall. And today, I think a lot of parents are asking, why do we need to pay education institutions or things like that? I think that's a big question mark to is coming. But tell me, the guy who is running that bus, the guy who is maintaining that bus, the guy who is actually the professor, all see the institutions are made up like that. So I think there's a lot of ifs and buts that people are putting just for the sake. I don't know why, but I think we are all in the same ecosystem, which is what I think we should be familiar with. And again, I think the role of transformation leader over here is to really come out on top and make this crisis into a opportunity rather than leave it there and say that we will not respond.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. One question for Trina. One question for Trina, sir. Sorry. Small question. Trina, are you there?
Yes, absolutely, Nima. Tell me.
Okay. With this new system, where a lot of IT companies are saying that we'll get into work from home and all, how do you plan these employee engagement programs? Like Outbound was there, there were team building, there were weekend get-togethers, so and so stuff. What is it? I mean, is there going to be a new system evolving for the whole thing?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for asking that question. So it is all about, so we have created a program. I'll just, since this is my alumni, I'll tell it. We call it HOME. So we have divided into HOME, where H is all about hyper communication, which I mentioned about, communication from the leadership, from internal communications, from HR, everybody. O is basically online fun activities. So we have social media enabled for our organization, and we are not only including our employees, we are including their family also. And when I say engagement, it's a holistic program for physical as well as mental wellness. And as a part of that, we have actually, done a lot of things. We have revised our corporate wellness program. We have relooked at the kind of policies that we have in the organization. And we have also enabled online fun activities. M is basically the Microsoft Analytics that we use to gauge the productivity and the engagement quotient. And E is again engagement, where we are actually working with the people managers in the organization to ensure and to engage them into tackling how to tackle a remote working condition, because for a lot of people it is a new situation right now. We have never dealt with this situation in the past. So for a lot of managers, they haven't handled remote working. So it's a guideline for them how you can manage remote teams. So we are doing that as a part of E. So that is how we are creating our home culture.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chakrabarti, for your questions, and thanks
Yeah.
to Trina and Manmeet.
Pleasure.
Now we time is running
Video.
fast, and
Yeah.
we need to conclude. The only thing is that before I conclude, maybe on the basis of the entire discussions, the inputs that I have derived, to be quote unquote a transformational leader in the time of crisis, that too at the time of COVID-19, is that the first point which I want to mention is people first, and people is first. That is the first point. Then handling of crisis, you should have that inclusivity. Redefining of leadership, which Manmeet said very, very aptly. The business continuity plan, the BCP, you need to have the thinking through an organizational perspective, maybe a different thinking, which Trina was telling about the diversification of business models in order to sustain yourself in this uncertain market. Benefits, you need to take the benefits, the advantages from the crisis, which we have discussed at length. You have to be empathetic with your employees. You need to win over the employees. That is something very important, because now is the time to stretch. Everybody is in a very adverse state of mind. Everybody is passing through an uncertain phase. So that winning of the employees, to stretch to that extent to achieve the goal, in order to that you need to be empathetic, and always you need to think in a long-term plan, a long-term agenda, which I hope will sustain you in the future. And hoping that this period of crisis will end very soon, because all of us are very anxious, but we are looking forward when that day will come, when this world will be cured from this pandemic, and we will all have a very, very happy day to start with. Thanking all of you, thanking all the listeners, the honorable faculty members, Dr. Patro, everybody, to be a to participate in this great webinar. A lot of deliberations, a lot of thoughts have been shared by the two panelists. Excellent, Trina and Manmeet. And I leave it to Dr. Patro to, sir, if you can say the final words, please. Sir, Dr. Patro, sir, if you can conclude. Patro, sir.
Yes, yes. Please.
Let me thank everybody for joining into this webinar. Our respected faculty, the principal sir. I need to thank my IT team for helping me, Tapon and Rana, very much. And special thanks to Mr. Manmeet Singh, our Trina, and Sir you, Mr. Pradeep Bhattabhai. And we look forward to such kind of interactions, webinars, suggestions, guidance, whatever way you want to put it in future, which is going to help all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
So we ended up here. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Our pleasure.